Hi Brushwhackers, I am so glad that I'm going to get to come down and teach for you in July. So I just wanted to record a little prep video to give you some tips and tricks and show you exactly what it is I'm talking about in the prep instructions. So I hope that this will help you out a little bit. So we are going to be working on Wine is My Magic Potion. I took mine apart. It was wired together, but just to make it easier to point things out. And the surface is available from Cupboard Distributing, www.cdwood.com, and they usually ship pretty quick. So if you want this actual surface, you can get that from them, and you're more than welcome to paint it on any surface you like. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is we need to decoupage some tissue paper on the background. And on the original, I just used the text background tissue. But I think on this one, actually I'm going to prepare two, because I found in classes that if I paint two, it keeps me at a good pace for the class to keep up. So on these two, I'm going to try a couple different backgrounds, and these are available on my website too. On one, I'm going to put this background, and that would probably mean I wouldn't have to do so much work on the background. And on the other one, I'm going to try this spider web tissue background. Okay, so I use decoupage medium in the matte finish. And one thing about decoupaging tissue onto a surface is you don't have to use a whole lot of decoupage. If you use too much decoupage, you're going to get a slick surface and you won't be able to apply your pattern to it. So I like to just be really frugal with applying the decoupage on, and I like to do it kind of a section at a time. So here I've done about a quarter of the plaque, and I'm going to put the tissue paper down, making sure I'm covering everything. And if you want to line it up, you can. It doesn't have to be lined up. It might be interesting if it wasn't, but I just want to do a little bit at a time so that I don't end up with dry spots and bubbles so much. Wrinkles are okay. So then I just pull the paper back and work another section. So it goes pretty fast. You see, I'm getting a few wrinkles, and I really like that. It's going to add a little more texture, and you know how I love to add texture and interest to a background. So we're just going to keep going and add this tissue paper on here. And some people like to use a brayer to flatten their tissue paper out. I just use my hand. It'll be okay. Anyway, okay, I think I'm going to get it done here. So I'm going to make sure that's all down nice and easy. I am going to put a very thin coat of decoupage over it. This is usually where people run into trouble, and they put too much and they get that slick surface that you can't put your pattern on. Now if that happens to you, all you need to do is take your sander or a sanding block and just lightly sand the surface to give it back its tooth. So, but I just want to make sure that this is here good. And if you were applying scrapbook paper, you would want to use a little bit more decoupage, and you would want to coat the back of the scrapbook paper and the surface. But since it's tissue paper and it's very thin, you don't need to do all that. So I'm going to cut away and decoupage the plaque, the bottom plaque for this, and then I'll be back for the next step. The next thing you want to do is you want to remove this excess tissue paper. And I always like to do that with an emery board. So I have these nice black ones. I think I'll put them up on my website too, because they're just really good for doing this. So you just kind of hold it at an angle and file off the excess tissue paper. That looks nice already. So I will do this to all my pieces, and then we'll come back for the next step. And I'm really liking this spider web on here. So what I said in the directions is to put the basic pattern on for the circle, but then I didn't give you a pattern for a circle. So all I want you to do is just take a pencil and just draw a nice little circle in the center of that top plaque. Just kind of, it doesn't have to be a perfect circle, just kind of as a guide for where you want to start this process. And you're going to need 3 colors, not red violet. That's not a good one. How about Tuscan red? Okay, you're going to need golden yellow, or any bright yellow that you have if you don't have golden yellow. Moon yellow would even work. It's a little not as bright, it's a little more muted, but it would be fine. And warm sunset and Tuscan red. And so you're going to want a larger brush. This one is a 3/4 inch. And we're going to start with golden yellow. And this is just to add some eeriness to the background. And you want to thin your paint a little bit. You want to keep it kind of thin so that it moves, and also so you don't lose that tissue paper in the background. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start by painting roughly, very roughly, that circle in the middle with golden yellow. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to blend colors into it. And then I'm going to pick up some warm sunset. Again, thinned down. You don't have to clean out your brush. You just want to keep it thinner so that it moves better. And you notice I'm putting my little plaque underneath so that I can just continue onto it with the graduation colors. So if I want to, I can come back in here and blend a little bit more golden yellow into that. But you want to keep it thin enough that you can see the tissue paper that you spent all that time putting on. And I'll pick up a little golden yellow and blend it back into here. And this part's going to be covered up anyway, but you know, it's good practice. So basically, just about every time I dip into paint, I'm picking up some water too, because I want it to go a little bit more smoother for me. And a nice blend of colors there. I think I need to come on this side a little bit more. And then I'm going to do the same thing with Tuscan red. And that's going to be across the top edge, down the sides, and onto this lower plaque. Tuscan red is a very pretty color. It doesn't get used too often. I want to thin it down a little bit more. And I'm going to go into this. And I'll get it all the way around here before I come back and pull some orange back into it. So it's kind of wet on wet blending, just to soften that background, the background colors, and just add, you know me, add interest. So just play back and forth until you get a nice thing a nice graduation of colors that you like. Continue over here. And I can see that tissue paper nicely through that background. I kind of lost that on the original piece. So just keep your brush wet while you're doing this so that it moves nice and easily. I'm going to blend some orange back in here. So this is something that you just want to play with for a while, just so you get a look that you like, or maybe you don't like. And then just remember, there's a lot of stuff that goes on top. Okay. Now I know this is a little rough in here, but I assume that it's going to be covered up by witch and hair and all that stuff. I put some yellow in there and soften it a little bit, but I don't think I need to worry about it too much. Let me see. This area here. I love it when the orange mixes with that Tuscan red because it gives us this nice reddish orange color. Okay, I'm going to call this one done. I'm going to work on the one with the bat background, and I'll be back. Alright, so the next step is going to be to apply the pattern for the witch, the wine bottle, and the wine glass, and her fingers and everything like that. So I do have tracings, vellum tracings available for purchase on my website, just to make things easier for you. And I also have these handy dandy erasable gel pens that help you keep track of where you put patterns on and where you didn't. Oops, I just moved the pattern. That's not good. Move that puppy back. There we go. And just put the pattern on for, you don't have to put the pattern on for all these things on her face just yet. Just the basics, not details. You do want to make sure you get the pattern on for her ears there. Her neck. On the hat here, I just brought the, I ignored these flowers and just brought the pattern down to, just went right through those flowers. So now I'm going to put on the pattern for the glass. You don't need to put the pattern on for her fingernails yet. Her fingers are good to have on. Let's see how we're doing there. Oh, that looks good. I need to get over here and get the wine bottle on. And you don't have to put the label on. We'll come on and do that after it's base painted. So I think I got everything on there that I want. Oh, I didn't do the bank, you know, the top of her. To separate her hair from her face. Better do that. Okay, cool. So So there you go. You want to get the pattern on so that we can do some background shading. Alright, pattern's on. Let me get a little closer here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do some shading on the background with deep burgundy. And I know this is something you probably could do in class, but it is so much easier to do this background shading before you have things based in. And so, and besides, who wants to sit around and you don't want to pay me to watch you float shading, right? Except on the important stuff. I have my handy dandy flow improver going, and we are going to float shading all the way around the outside edge of the main plaque. And I realized I called this the shingle, and around the shingle. So I will probably fast forward through this, but at least you'll be able to see where I'm going. You can always slow it down. So I'll play some cute music and we'll all be happy. You don't have to go across where this bottom here, from like the wine bottle over to where her hand comes down. So I saved you a little bit. So here we go. Let's float the shading. And this color, it's nice on the Tuscan red. Alright, so I've shaded around the outside edges. I can set the shingle aside. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to float deep burgundy shading around each of the elements. So around the wine bottle, around the witch, and around the wine glass and her fingers. And so I will fast forward again. But you're just going to go through around all of the elements and float some deep burgundy shading. And you can just bounce around on this, you know, so you don't wipe out floats. So just have a good time with it, or as much fun as you can have floating shading. Okay, I think I've gotten everywhere around this. So I'm going to go do the shading on my other piece, and I'll be back with the next step. Alright, on the original that had the text background tissue, I used a Tim Holtz stamp called Background, and I filled up the whole background with a stencil of these bats with deep burgundy also. But since I have this background here, the spider webs, I'm only going to add just a few bats here and there. So let me get out a stencil, and these are done with deep burgundy, and I just want to add just a few. They don't get highlighted or shaded or anything, so it doesn't really matter where you put them, and you can't even really see them. So I don't know, it's up to you. But if you want to add a few bats to the background, that one you could see. Probably get a couple over here. Yeah, those you can see. So in the lighter areas, you can add these bats if you want, only if you want. This is a strictly Your choice. I think I like that. I think that'll do it. Now on this one, I think I'll add a couple anyway, even though there are bats in the background already, I might add a few of these just to perk it up a little bit. So it might be bat overload. Who knows? But you see, even the backgrounds, it's a matter of whatever you want to do. It doesn't have to be exactly like the original was. Experiment, play with it. Do what you want. If you don't want bats on the background, put circles or dots or nothing. Whatever you want to do. So we are going to come back with black plum and deepen the shading around the edges. We're going to, wherever you shaded with the deep burgundy, you want to come back and do nice soft floats of black plum. And basically we want to pay attention to the V areas. We want to darken those up a little bit. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to first go around, and it doesn't have to be all the way around her, but just pick out these areas that you want to darken just a little bit. So like here's a nice area that needs a little bit of darkening, and I'll probably go under the hat and I'll walk this color out a little bit. And if you have a mop brush, that'd be handy just to soften that float out. So just here and there in this area, you want to darken that up. And what's nice about doing this before you have everything based in is you don't have to be real careful. You can get it on her hat or her hair or whatever, and you haven't basted in yet, so it's okay. I'm going to do this area right here. So you can go all the way around or just pick and choose. On the outside edge, you do want to go all the way around again. Probably right in here. And I'm going to go in here, certainly. That's a nice little area that we want to darken up. And probably on this side of the wine bottle. All right, and then you just go all the way around the edges again of the main piece and the shingle. So I'll be back with the next step when I'm done with that. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to paint in her face, including her ears, her neck, and her hand. And you want to go ahead and paint in the entire face. Don't avoid it because it's going to be painted white, because we need that flesh color in the background to kind of show through that white. So you just want to base in her face, including her ears and her neck, her fingers and her thumb. And that's with coral shell. So we're just going to paint in, and this is going to be another one of those. I'm going to fast forward this part. All right, I did give it 2 coats. 2 is enough. And so I'm going to base in the face and hand on my other piece, and I'll be back with the next step. Okay, so I've got my face and hand based in. So you're going to need your pattern again. And what we're going to do is we're going to put on the pattern so we know where to base in the warm white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pattern on, and when I'm going to start here at the where the ear and the face meet, and I'm just going to draw a straight line down to the eyelid. So on the other side it's going to be a little bit taller. You can see more of this ear than you can of that one, so you're just going to put a little slanted line there, okay, and then go across the top of her eye, across the top of her eye, and then you just want to kind of do a curve. I should have put it on the pattern, but I didn't. Just a little curve, a dip across her nose, okay? And from that line down, you're going to base in her face with warm white, and it doesn't have to be opaque, okay? You can see some of that coral shell behind it. And I'm just going to paint her neck. Paint her neck completely white. But you can see, I can still see some of that flesh color behind. And then I'm going to come up, paint this whole lower half of her face with warm white. So this is going to be another fast forward moment for you. Okay, so I did go over a couple spots because it was a little too see-through for me. But that's basically what I want. She looks really weird now, right now. But that's basically what you need to do, is paint in the lower half of her face and her neck with a coat. You could do 2. I'm going to renege on that. You could do 2 if you want, of warm white. Alright, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to put the pattern on for the rest of her face, and you can we'll base the hat in first, and then you can go back and put the pattern on for the roses and the leaves. That will just be easier. So just put the pattern on for all the decorations on her face, and then we'll get to base painting them. Okay, so the first thing we're going to base in, on your directions it says to base her eye in completely with warm white, but since you did that across her face, you already have that done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to base in the hat with graphite. Another fast forward moment for you. Alright, I did do 2 coats. So take your time and get her hat based in. Alright, the next thing you want to do is you want to base in the wine bottle with Black Forest green, and then you can base in her hair with lamp black. So Black Forest green on the wine bottle and her hair with lamp black. And it's going to take 2 coats. Okay, 2 coats of Black Forest on the wine bottle and 1 coat of lamp black on her hair. Okay, so the next step is you're going to get your pattern out again, and you're going to put on the pattern for the little bat, not the details, and the label, and then the pattern for the leaves and the roses. Okay. So just 2 straight lines for that label, and then the outline of the bat, you'll add the detail pattern later. And I know this seems like a whole lot of work for the prep, but trust me, there is a lot of detail on this piece, so it was better to have this stuff done before we started class. Alright, and I'm going to go up here and put the pattern on for the roses. As long as you're working on the hat, you might as well put the pattern on for the brim here, just that little line. And then the roses and the leaves, just put the outline on, you know, to put the whole with the swirls and everything. So easy peasy, put this pattern on, and then we'll base those things in. Believe it or not, we're almost done. Okay, so the bat, well, go ahead and paint the label in with warm white, since you already have that out on your palette. And you're probably going to want a couple of coats, because it is the label on the bottle. They usually hide the bottle. We do some shading and highlighting on the label, so it doesn't have to be completely opaque. It's a very rustic wine bottle, so it doesn't have to be perfectly straight, right? That's my story. So I'll probably give this one coat and then come back after I do the roses and the leaves and give it another coat. Okay, now the leaves on the hat band are going to be based in with Irish moss. And I think you can get away with one coat. There is some shading and highlighting on them, so there's some stuff to go on top of them. So if you don't water your paint down a whole lot, you should be able to get away with just one coat. But if you want to put two, that's completely fine too. I always like to look at things and go, okay, what's going on top of this? Is it completely necessary for this to be opaque? And a lot of times it's, no, it doesn't have to be opaque. So those leaves are based in Irish moss. The roses themselves are based in with dragon fruit. And here again, there's a lot of stuff that goes on top of these, so one coat is going to be enough. And I know it's going to look pretty see-through, but it'll be okay, trust me. I haven't lied to you yet during this whole video that I can remember. Now her hair is going to come up over the lower edge of these roses, so just kind of finish that rose on the left out a little bit. I'm going to go back and give my label another coat of warm white. I think that second coat is going to be enough for that. On your prep instructions it says bath. There is no bath on here. It's supposed to be bat. So we are going to paint the wine glass and that little bat with purple rain. If you don't have purple rain, you could go ahead and use lavender. Add just a touch of dioxazine purple to it to deepen it a little bit. Lavender might be a little too light. So while I let the wine glass dry, I'll go over and paint the little bat with a coat or two of purple rain. So that's going to conclude the painting part of your prep. You're going to want to put on maybe the fingernails, pattern for the fingernails, for this part of the hair that flips over there. You don't worry about the earrings just yet. We'll do the hair first. The pattern on the little bat to begin with. we'll do some dry brushing, highlighting, and shading on the label before we put the pattern on for the words. So just put whatever detail pattern you feel is necessary. Fingernails, hair, and the bat I would suggest that you have done. Anyway, I hope that this video has helped you to understand and get your prep done well ahead of class. I apologize that it's so much, but like I said, there's a lot of detail on here. So we needed to have this done so that we could get close to done or completely done in the time allotted for our class. I also wanted to let you know that I went ahead and cut a stencil, and it's kind of hard to see here, but I cut a stencil for the lettering. It's not the exact same lettering, but it's as close as I could get. And let's go ahead and take that out. That just to make the lettering for you a little bit more easier. So that is available on my website. Also, there is a page set aside for the San Diego Brushwhackers Magic Potion Seminar, and so you'll be able to find that stuff, everything you need there. And I'll go ahead and move the bat tissue paper and the spiderweb tissue paper there, so it'll be easier for you to find if you decide to use it as opposed to the text background tissue. So anyway, I'm looking forward to painting with you, and I will see you in July.